I'm going to try to make this a quick update. We put out a forecast yesterday after the 7 magnitude in Argentina. We put out, or I put out a list of potential areas to look out for. If you remember yesterday, if you watched yesterday's live stream, we did put Indonesia, this area right here in between Indonesia and the Philippines in the water. I addressed this specifically in yesterday's live forecast, and slightly about 22 hours later, we got a 6 magnitude. And again, we only count 6 magnitude or higher as successful forecasts because anything lower than 6 magnitude is not statistically relevant. So let's get into it. This was the earthquake. This is where it occurred. It occurred in this area right here. I have this queued up. This is the live forecast from yesterday, May 2nd. I'm going to go ahead and play this real quick. So if we have any more pre-seismic signals. So I see a cluster of events right here. Philippines, Indonesia. Let's see here. Let's zoom out. Like, where's the real... Yeah, this area right here. So, like this area in between Indonesia and the Philippines. So there you have it. I'm not going to go through the whole live stream. That yesterday was a long one. So this is the sun right now. But if we go back and look at this earthquake, this is the exact area I was talking about yesterday. So yeah, another successful forecast. Sorry if you hear sirens in the background. I live in an area where we hear sirens a lot, unfortunately. So I'll give them a second to go by. And they stop nearby. Fantastic. Anyways, so we called out this area, or sorry, I should just say I'm the only one here. I don't have employees or anything like that, so, or a team. Wish I did, though. If you want to be very accurate with earthquake forecasting, you have to pay close attention to this stuff for many hours every day. These things, all these data points that we use here, they're constantly in flux and motion and changing. That's why I'd love to teach people how to do what I do, because the more of us are looking at it, the better, and the more not just accurate we can be, but also it just helps. It's just me doing it. I have a life to live, and even if I could do this full time, this would take several hours every single day just to keep up with all this stuff. That's just the nature of things, and the tools that we have available to us creates these circumstances. Anyway, so we called out this area, or I called out this area right here. It occurred right where I said it would, in between. So Indonesia's like down here. This is like the Philippine Islands up here. And I said we had a cluster of events right here. We had a low pressure cell system, and I think we had some OLR anomalous activity here that was not very powerful, not super strong, but definitely strong enough to put this area on alert. And we got the 6 magnitude. I don't think I have the spreadsheet open. You can go watch the last episode and or the last yesterday's live stream from May 2nd, and you could see the list of areas that we put on watch. But going off memory, I know this for a fact. This was definitely an area. I also believe we put this area right here, which hasn't seen anything 6 magnitude or higher yet. But anywhere from New Zealand all the way up to Tonga, Fiji, there's some areas to look at. And I believe we called out just northern Japan, and there was a low pressure cell here that I noted if it expanded or moved southward, we would put all of Japan on alert. But it seemed like this area north of Japan, sorry, would be more prone to a large event. So what else did we look at? We looked at this area right here. I believe we put Peru, Chile region on a slight alert. And then obviously you're going to see some aftershocks here at this area, south of Argentina, where they had that 7 magnitude. But that's, already happened and already going on. So we're not going to touch on that too much. So if we go look at the sun, this coronal hole's turning away. I feel like at most we have 24 more hours from the effects of this one. However, if this southern part turns in and it grows, and if this area right here in particular that's trans-equatorial gets darker, we'll have another watch period. So I'll be keeping an eye on this. I'll probably update tomorrow. Again, I'm going to try to be a little more active on here with the live streams. It's just hard with my schedule and stuff. And this stuff takes time. So that's the current image of the sun. I don't think sunspots are a factor at the moment. And see, this is, I pointed this out yesterday. This is like such a large area that does not have a coronal field around it. However, it's not that powerful, because if it was, it'd be a lot darker. So, but there's still, it's still, you know, enough energy coming out of there that it, you know, raises the chances of large magnitude quakes. So let's get into the weeds here. And let's go over here to see what kind of low pressure cell areas we're looking at. Yeah, so that one I mentioned yesterday about Japan, this low pressure cell is very large. The biggest concentration of it was like right here in this area, which is like the northern part of Japan. It looks like there's a smaller one here now, and then one that moves southward a little bit. So if we zoom in a little bit, let's see how fast these things are moving. So we have this kind of swarm of low pressure cell charged particles kind of hanging out right here, right here, right here. I would almost have more attention here just because they all kind of seem to converge and float in this area. So you have all this rushing in right here, and then they just kind of hover in this area right here. So if we go over and we look at, that's not what I want to look at. Let me just close this so I don't get keep clicking on the wrong thing. You could tell I haven't been live streaming for very long. I'm not a pro at this. That's the 7-day, 30-day. Did I pass it? I think I passed it. There we go. Daily. Let's look at the daily OLR anomaly. So Japan, yep, right in that area right there. So off the southern coast of Japan right there. And if we pair that up with, yeah, this area right here. So the outgoing long wave radiations is mixing with this. I would keep Japan on alert as one of the areas looking for a spot. We already called that out yesterday, so I would raise the alert just a little bit. So yeah, keep an eye on that area. Let's see what else we got here. This one piped down a little bit, so maybe risk slightly lower than yesterday for this New Zealand all the way up to Tonga, Fiji. That doesn't mean they're clear out of the water, but I would lower it. It doesn't look as powerful as it did yesterday. So, however, this area in Indonesia right here, because of this like kind of magnetic mixing right here that we discussed, in my mind, I feel like theoretically these outgoing long wave radiation anomalies are the equivalent of what we see on the sun as far as sunspots. And again, this is just all theoretical and what I believe and what I've looked into and what I think. So yeah, because and if you look like this area right here where it's just a little bit darker right here, that is exactly right where we have this right there. And if we look at the low pressure cells, let's move down there and just look at the, see, this area is kind of tricky right here because you have all this like kind of darker areas, and then, you know, this lighter area right here is usually there, and then it's dark here, but then you have a small dark spot there. And anyway, so that 6-pointer occurred right here. And if you look where that occurred, as I mentioned, where you see these lines moving really fast, but then in some areas they move really slow and they all kind of converge in different directions and come to a spot. And that's, we do often see earthquakes happen right at those areas, right where you see all these particles that are coming up from the upper atmospheres and you know, the upper layers, you know, that are gray and yellow. They're all feeding into these lower, darker areas. And if you look right where that earthquake occurred, look, you have all these converging charged particles coming from different pressure cells. So you have this high pressure cell feeding into here, comes down into here, and then you have these right here feeding in. It's all coming into this one area. You see all these lines are feeding into one area. Like this low pressure cell here, it's just from a singular area. If you look down here towards the bottom, it's just one right? But right here, you have multiple high pressure cells feeding into this one area, and then they're also moving slower. So they kind of couple up and they cluster up right there. And then when you have those meeting with the outgoing long wave radiation, and again, this is charged particles emanating upward from the lithosphere, that's exactly what we see. And we see an earthquake there. I've been doing this for 13 years, and this is something I've been observing for a very long time. And it's pretty accurate. Like, there's definitely ways we can forecast major events. We don't have enough satellites doing what we would need to do. China and I believe Italy are in the forefront of this right now, and I actually believe China will be the first to actually have a system in place where they can actually start forecasting, like actually maybe even, like, I would dare say, predicting large earthquakes. They might even be able to do it right now. I would imagine that they're going to be, have something like that in place and be able to accurately predict stuff before they, release it publicly and say, hey, we can do this now. Anyways, so let's jump out of this. So that was Indonesia. Peru still kind of on alert, not majorly. I don't think as much as yesterday. I think we had a slightly bigger area right here. I do have a little bit of tension right here. If you see that dark red spot right there, and I believe that's Guatemala. No, that's maybe El Salvador right there. It's Central America, southern part of Central America. Let's go to the USGS map so we can get a clear picture of what's going on over there. So this area right here has kind of a dark area. We're not seeing any pre-seismic signals in the way of blot echoes or smaller seismic events. However, you see that little dark spot right there, and then you have this one. These could get more powerful or move shape over there, so I would keep an eye on Central America for sure. Since we're seeing this out, this isn't really too. I mean, it's important to call this out just to provide more validity and substance to the forecasting model that I use. But this really big dark spot right here is near the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, and we do get earthquakes out there sometime. So let's just go ahead and look at that area, look closer at it real quick. Go over to the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. Okay, so no low pressure cell activity out over there. However, remember I told you when they start converging into one area and moving really slowly? That's kind of what we're seeing right here. And then we can also pair that up with that dark red spot right there. So that's a pretty powerful outgoing long wave radiation anomaly. So we have a bunch of charged particles coming up, emanating upward from the lithosphere, or the surface of the Earth, I should say. And it's meeting these charged particles, which aren't really low pressure cells yet. So there's a chance we won't see anything there, but I would go ahead and put it on the list as maybe a low to medium risk. And I think that's about it. I just wanted to call out that update. We had a successful forecast, another one. Get used to it. I have successful forecasts all the time. I've successfully forecasted hundreds, I mean like many hundreds of earthquakes over the past 13 years or so. I've documented it publicly since 2013 on my personal page, and then I switched over to a public Facebook page, which I haven't updated in a couple of years. I started that page in 2017. That's also called Quake Weather. You can go back and look at all the logs, all the history of all the successful forecasts that I've done. I can totally do it. It's not 100%, but I am more often right than not. And I don't want to gloat or anything, but it's all right here, and it's all with publicly available tools. It's all free to do as long as you have an internet connection. And I'm willing to teach anybody. And if you guys ever have any questions or want to know exactly how I do it, please feel free, like, comment, all that stuff, whatever the YouTubers ask you to do. I'm sure it helps because I've heard it does. I don't really care. I do this. I like doing this. I wish I had more people that would do this with me, because it's to really do this and be effective, to be more effective at it. It's almost impossible for one person to do. It's not impossible, but this would have to be a full-time job where I work 60 hours a week. And this doesn't, I've never made $1 off any of this. So, this is just me doing it. Anyways, if you have any questions, you want to learn more, or if you want to go into my history or my record or whatever, I'm totally open to it. You can put me through the gauntlet. I don't care. I'm here for it. So I think that's it. There's your update. I'll probably do another live stream tomorrow.